The constant strive to improve safety in racing is something that drives forward series like Formula 1 like hardly anything else, and probably the device that is the least recognised, the least obvious, and probably the most important in saving the lives of dozens, if not hundreds of racing drivers in Formula 1 over years is the helmet. The Formula 1 racing helmet has gone through many substantial changes over the decades. So let's have a look here at what's actually happened, how these helmets have evolved and what they're like today. Well, let's have a look at this. There's a full article here on the F1Chronicle.com. Please do check it out as always. But yes, so Formula 1 was founded back in 1950, but of course motorsport goes a lot further back than that. In the early days of racing, drivers tied cloth or canvas over their faces to keep the insects out of their hair. Yes, they raced cars with towels on their heads. They also helped to protect their faces from the pebbles spat out by the tyres of the preceding cars, as well as the grease from their faces. In the 1920s and 30s, some drivers took to racing with football and firefighter helmets. It's beggars belief, man. Oh, things have changed. But in 1952, things changed. Cork helmets were mandated by the FIA in that year. Cork helmets were made of cloth-covered cork in the shapes of a man's head. These were then soaked in glue and dried for strengthening. It didn't take long before metal helmets were the designers and choice of the racers. Steel crash helmets were developed by the end of the 1950s and made mandatory by the FIA around that time for all forms of motorsport racing. But then things changed again. Glass fiber helmets came in around 1958, I believe. Let's have a look at this. So the advent of glass fiber technology meant that the helmets had considerably more strength than steel helmets. The helmets were an open face design, forcing drivers to wear cloth towel and goggles to protect their eyes and faces. Dan Gurney was the first to introduce a full face helmet at the 1958 German Grand Prix. A glass fiber helmet was more aerodynamic and provided more facial protection to the drivers. The aerodynamic nature of the helmet also meant the driver's head was buffeted less by the wind resistance at great speeds or when decelerating. A visor was also integrated onto the helmet and did away with the goggles the drivers had to wear. That was around the 60s, I believe. You can see drivers wearing goggles in the 1960s still. There was a need, however, to protect drivers from fire and allow them to communicate with their teams when wearing a helmet. The Grand Prix Drivers Association was formed in 1961, and they, along with the FIA, started to look at ways to make the sport safer for drivers, race officials, as well as spectators. Of course, Sir Jackie Stewart being one of the pioneers of that in general in the mid-60s and early 70s. Fireproof innings were introduced as the innermost layer of the helmet. An air supply system was also built into the helmet to trigger when the car's fire extinguisher was activated. Tubes connected to the driver's drink bottle were also introduced to the helmet. Radio systems were incorporated in the helmet, which allowed drivers to communicate with their teams. The introduction of carbon fiber in 2001 made obsolete the use of glass fiber in racing helmets. Wow, it was really that late. Carbon fiber was tougher than glass fiber and allowed helmet constructors to make tailor-made helmets for each racer. Although carbon fiber helmets are heavier than glass fiber ones, they are way better at distributing the load when there is a crash. I've also spoken to a guy, Ed Bernardin, who is an expert in carbon fiber if you want to learn some more about that. I believe that's over on the motoringchronicle.com when we go into that. There are 17 layers in a carbon fiber helmet. Inside the tough shell of carbon fiber, there is a layer of high-density foam. This foam helps absorb the energy in the event of an impact by deforming and distributing the load evenly. The innermost layer is made for a tailor-made helmet made after the laser scanning driver's head. The layer consists of a soft foam and gives the wearer a close fit, making him comfortable. And I'll just go through this last bit here. So the standard 8860 dictates how the FIA has made mandatory the rules for helmets. These undergo strict safety tests and are impact loaded for dropping of 5 kilograms of steel anvils from a height of 3.3 meters on chin bars. Wow. A steel spike weighing 3 kilograms is dropped from the top of the helmet. Although the helmet may be dented, neither the steel casing nor the inside foam layer should be breached or compromised. And this all contributes to drivers surviving some incredibly high G impacts. Max Verstappen and Sir Lewis Hamilton back at Silverstone in 21. We've also had the likes of Guan Yu Zhou at Silverstone in 22. Silverstone having some really big accidents. But yeah, this is the reason why Formula 1 drivers are surviving so much these days. You know, things like the halo and the roll hoop, of course, that helps massively. But the helmet, if that wasn't there, these guys would be in a whole world of trouble, to say the least. So, like I said, full article over on the F1Chronicle.com if you want to check it out. There's more information I can go through here in 5 minutes. And of course, for more things you can learn about Formula One, keep it tuned here to the F1Chronicle.com and suggest a topic for us to talk about. Always open to new ideas. Let us know in the comments below. Ring the bell, like, share, subscribe, and everything in between as well. And we'll see you with much more F1 content here on the F1 Chronicle very soon.